The city archive burned down. Yesterday, the 15th of October. The building of the old city archive, located on Nekrasov Street, broke out. According to the preliminary version of the investigation, the cause of the fire was a faulty wiring. The authorities have repeatedly talked about the transfer of documents and restoration of the object, but the promises did not reach the point. Got it. Leaving the newspaper scattered on the bench, Maslov jumped into the approaching bus. Through the window, he saw a tramp in a ragged leather jacket walking along, holding on to the side of the house. The outskirts of the city are the rotting tail of a large fish. Roads are not everywhere, and where they are available, it is difficult to call it a road. Dark things happened here, even in the light of day. The one-story building I was looking for stood out strikingly from the rest of the battered buildings. The blackened facade was a perfect match for the leaden, unkind sky. Nearby, I could hear the voices of workers clearing rubble. It smelled like burning. He didn't quite know what he was looking for, but his gut told him that this was where Vereshchagin had gone. At the back of the building, there were long tables set up on the grass. People were bustling around, carefully covering boxes of documents with plastic wrap to protect them from the rain. Apparently, the data that survived the fire. No one paid any attention to the short, balding man. So Valentin just walked over and watched. A voice came from behind. "Guys, I brought some more." A small man in an old-fashioned sweater was coming down the concrete stairs, barely able to hold up 3 burned boxes at once. Maslov hurried to the rescue and took part of the cargo from his hands. They put the wretched papers, which weighed a ton, on the tables and moved away. "Thank you." The worker caught his breath and smoothed his small, disheveled beard. "I haven't seen you here before." "Yes, I came, so I have to make a request. And here's how." "Ah!" The man pulled out a crumpled pack of cigarettes and lit it. "A real tragedy, yes. So what? I've been working for the devil knows how many years, and there are no problems with electricity, so that's it." "Arson, you think?" The physicist scratched his head, pretending to be an idle gawker. "You bet. These fucking oligarchs, they should grab the ground, spit on the rest, and trample on it. Who wants to bother with restoration? It's easier to demolish and build a new one. What will bring money? So, that's it. You're right." The silence didn't last long, and the archivist asked politely, "Maybe I can still help." "You see, this is a delicate matter. I need information about my distant relative. I'm trying to dig up the family tree." Right now, Valentin pulled out a piece of paper he'd found in the closet. Jensen G.K., a fairly rare name. "So what's more? Oh yes, there's also the year, 1974. The bearded man looked down at the ground and rubbed his hand nervously. There was something Maslov didn't like about him. The other man looked too strange. His voice was twitchy and his movements jerky. There is a well-known city surgeon, Jensen Heinrich Konstantinovich, and the year, it seems, that in the voiced year he was killed. Is amazing. You know exactly what I'm talking about." Maslov put the crumpled piece of paper back in his pocket. "Nonsense. The figure is famous. and I remember it, yes. A very talented surgeon. He performed a lot of complex operations. They didn't find the killer, yes, but they suspected that he was a disgruntled patient, you know. A difficult profession. You can't be more precise. I think the documents from those years are still intact, but we'll have to look in this mess. Can you wait over there? I had to sit for a long time. For a couple of hours, he seemed to have been sitting on a ramshackle chair under the surviving awning, watching people carry archive boxes of varying degrees of blackness around. Finally, a man in a sweater appeared and handed over a small package, with an oath to return the documents by the following Monday. Maslov went home. On the way, he talked about the connection between Vereshchagin, the archive, and the fire. Did he want to save the papers, or did he want to destroy them? In any case, the neighbor will not talk again, which means that the mysterious killer is not left out. The setting sun cast a rich amber glow over the half-empty streets and the lonely people scattered in their burrows. All of them might be under threat, but each didn't care about the other. There are no more homeless people in the area. When Maslov opened the door leading to the communal apartment, he saw a familiar policeman about to leave. "Oh, Lesh, what are you doing here?" He let the uniformed man go ahead without going inside. "I was just going to visit. Talk here and there." There was an awkward silence. Alexei leaned back against the wall, looking at the other man's face in a strange way. "I went for a walk. Useful, according to doctors." "I understand," the policeman said after a moment. "I heard that a chemist was hired from your school." "Yes, I was there this morning, and it was a terrible sight. Well, as it is, I shouldn't have gone where I shouldn't have." Maslov thought about it. "Can I talk to him?" "We didn't say goodbye normally. I would, but I'm afraid no one will talk to him again. They were killed in the cell. Apparently, an order from those with whom he worked, so that you don't rat anyone out. The punishment is really tough. The tongue was cut off, and there is blood all over the cell. My God." Alexei took out a cigarette and lit it. The smell of tobacco brought Valentin to his senses. "Such a story. This is not a book to read, my friend. And one more interesting thing. Yesterday, your neighbor, Konstantin Vereshchagin, was found murdered." Maslov decided to pretend to be unenlightened intuition prompted. "It doesn't get any easier from hour to hour. Did you get poisoned with burnt alcohol?" "No. They didn't find a ppm in the blood, which is surprising. And they killed me. But I think someone hit me with a rock in the park." "Okay. Nothing out of the ordinary?" "Nah." Alexei finished his cigarette, letting out the last cloud of bluish smoke and sticking it off the wall. "You're a strange man, Valya. The people around you don't live long." Maslov tensed, feeling the heavy gaze, but continued to stare silently in the direction of the park. "I'm just kidding." The policeman laughed, slapping Valentin on the shoulder. "Okay, don't worry. We'll break through. Greetings from Borka. He's still studying at home. A capable boy, although there are problems. I think it's time for me to go. Don't get sick." "Yeah." Alexei sauntered off, leaving Maslov in a daze. The sun sank into the realm of death, and darkness descended over the city. Inside the bag were 20-year-old patient cards, a visit log, and a small ramshackle brown notebook. There are only initials in the magazine, and there are 3 of them. MV, P, M, D, B, M, A, G. And there are no signatures, no instructions, not even the time of reception. It was more like a cipher or a list of special patients. But leafing through the notebook, Valentine noticed a lot of interesting things. It was a personal diary. The pages were badly burned, but it was possible to read individual sentences. By and large, the usual medical records are spread out on paper. However, the physicist immediately picked up fragments that included initials from a half-empty visit log. Mr. VP, body parameters are normal, but how did he survive the encounter at sea with Cup D? An exceptional case. It is necessary to refer to the source. Spent a lot of time outside. The theory that abbreviations are special cases from personal practice has been confirmed. A couple of pages later, the last initials popped up. It's like the records were washed away by water. A lot of things crossed out that you can't make out. Yesterday, I examined the wife of M.A.G. before meeting this creature. Then, the text ended in an abundance of ink spots. I imagined it differently. He was very enthusiastic. Now I understand. Only 7 Corners of Hnogf will help. It was brought by M.A.G.'s father from somewhere in South America. I lost my dream, but I didn't see it like that. I need to kill the thing before it understands. As he was about to close the notebook, Valentine accidentally noticed that one of the sheets was slightly peeled off at the edge, and behind it was another. Apparently, the owner fixed it to hide important things from prying eyes. It took a lot of work not to tear the flimsy paper, but by pulling lightly on the edges, Maslov got to the hidden information. A bunch of strange symbols that look like the alphabet. On the left-hand page, an artfully drawn pair of eyes with rectangular pupils looked out with a grin from the space behind the paper. To the right, amid a scattering of obscure letters, was written the following: "Come and have a drink. The wastes of Geheian beckon miracle workers." Yesterday I accepted the book 7 Corners of Hnogf and learned to see through the world. On distant planets where no light penetrates, I have plunged into the mysteries of living flesh. But with this knowledge came the horrors. Surgery is now just a toy. Interventions are performed as simply as possible. The biggest operation, true alchemy, takes place in the soul. Maslov felt sick. He put down the papers and lay down on the bed. There was a white noise in my mind, and my blood was pounding in my ears. Maybe the disease was making itself felt, or maybe these notes. No, I didn't want to think about it. After taking an aspirin, the physicist waited to feel better, but he couldn't help but talk in the background about what he had read. The doctor seems to have gone mad. A book that reveals the secrets of the universe. Nonsense. What other wastelands of ghee, or whatever. Valentine's lips moved faintly, muttering to himself. Jensen went into the occult and lost his mind. A Soviet surgeon from the backwoods got a real magical grimoire. It's easier to believe in the delirium of a lunatic. But what prompted the doctor to seek salvation in witchcraft? He saw the unusual wife of that patient. The physicist began to sort through the information, trying to form a more or less coherent theory. 20 years ago, Jensen encountered a man, the mysterious M.A.G., perhaps because of the maniac's connection to magic. M.A.G. showed the doctor his wife, and the doctor decided to kill her for some unknown reason, but did not give a sign. At this point, most likely, the madness began. Probably M.A.G. killed the doctor when he suspected a threat. It turned out that there was a connection between the events in the past and the nightmare happening now. 20 years later, Vereshchagin finds out about this case. He digs and finds the name of a surgeon associated with M.A.G. Goes to the archive, but it is set on fire. M.A.G. is aware of Vereshchagin's actions. Maybe he got drunk because he knew about something terrible? M.A.G. continues the game and kidnaps people from the street, probably for rituals. Invites other participants by making Vereshchagin a ticket to the performance. Police cover their tracks in the dead man's room, and the chemist was also privy to the maniac's actions. And only after meeting the woman from the diary, I decided to stop the case and got hooked on drugs. Alexander Gordievich was removed so that he wouldn't talk about the activities of the sect. The senses were dulled. The tenacious paws of sleep crawled into my head. All that's left is the message. He points without any alcohol. And Vereshchagin didn't have a ppm in his blood. It turns out that the hand of the deceased was taken aside by someone who wanted to interfere with the plans of M.A.G. It is possible that he also planted the shell. We need to see where the hand is pointing. The dream took the teacher quickly and imperceptibly. The images that had filled my head during the day passed through my mind. Vereshchagin's hand floated slowly across the starry sky, and somewhere in the background, the steady clatter of African tom-toms could be heard. It grew until it reached the great climax of breaking through into reality. Covered in sweat, Maslov jumped up and did not immediately realize where he was. Someone was breaking in. "Hey, what are you doing there?" My dry throat failed me. Silence. It's like there's no one at the door. And then those on the other side began to pull the handle, beat with their fists, and something sharp with a vengeance. There were no other sounds left. Valentin felt his heart want to escape from his chest. And after all, no one will come to the rescue. The communal apartment is absolutely empty. For some reason, the thought itself slipped through my mind. He was sure that he was the only one inside the building, even though it sounded absurd. The room smelled of autumn leaves and alcohol, rotting acorns and damp earth with a light touch of candle wax. With trembling hands, Maslov, not knowing what he was doing, threw on his jacket and rushed out the window. I didn't jump very far, but I twisted my leg. The physicist hobbled quickly toward the park. There was a pop behind him. "Don't turn around. Just don't turn around." The same thought kept pounding in my head. But at the first trees, on the edge of the parkland, he turned and looked back toward the house. In the light of the window, stood what looked like a scarecrow in a garden, with a canvas bag on its head and a simple charcoal face. The sleeves of his old jacket fluttered in the wind, and the dry leaves rustled. And then the stuffed animal fell out of the window. The ill-fated lantern was just around the corner. The scene of Vereshchagin's murder was now clean, and there was nothing to remind us of the events of recent days. Remembering the location of the corpse and the direction of the limb, Maslov, falling on his bad leg, resolutely followed the path of the dead man's hand. The pain in my ankle was getting worse, but the breath of uncertainty on the back of my neck triggered an ancient survival instinct. The sounds were gone. The shuffle of boots on the asphalt and the steady thud behind them, getting closer and closer by the second, and nothing more. There are no people on the street, no dogs, no tramps. Maslov glanced at the time before diving into the underpass. 2 in the morning. It's damp and dark inside. One dim light bulb kept flickering, revealing a silhouette in the darkness. Looking back, Valentin listened and caught a familiar sound. The hound's nocturnal visitor followed the trail. There was no choice left. A black woman was sitting on the concrete, her legs tucked under her, wrapped in a dirty, puffy jacket. Her eyes were fixed on something else, and she didn't notice the man in front of her. "Will you help?" Valentin said, the first thing that came to mind. There was no reaction. Realizing this, the physicist pulled a shell out of his pants pocket. "Your subject?" The woman turned her head slowly. His fleshy lips were drawn back in a smile, though his eyes were vaguely threatening. Slowly, she stretched out her hand, which was clenched into a fist, and opened it right in front of Valentin's face. There was a mound of black and white powder in the palm of his hand. Behind them, an alarmed thud echoed through the concrete walls. The negress blew on the powder, and Maslov's face sank into a sheet of tiny flying particles. The air smelled of pepper and ash. All of a sudden, the smells were gone. The world lost its colors. The space turned into a monochrome silent movie. Valentin was swayed to the side because of the extreme dizziness. He felt himself falling. I shouldn't have started playing detective. The last thought flashed like a flashlight in my fading consciousness. They were dragging him somewhere. My insides twisted into a tight knot. I felt sick. The tears in his eyes made it hard to see, but he was slowly coming to. Hallway. 2 hold hands. Their skin is pitch black. Surprised dark faces stare out of the open doors. Whispers in one of the African languages fly around. A soft chant is heard, and the aroma of soup with a lot of spices floats. The drugged man is carried into one of the rooms and placed like a doll in a chair. The brain shuts down. Waterman. A woman's insistent voice cut into my ear. Valentin barely opened his eyes and saw a woman bending down in front of him, holding a bowl of liquid. He took the dishes with unsteady hands. It's bitter. Some kind of decoction, not water. But his parched throat was glad of that, too. He gulped, coughed, and swallowed again. The resident left and called out to someone. The decoction flowed through Maslov's veins, and life returned to him. He looked around in surprise at the unfamiliar place. Soviet furniture, a closet wall, dark greasy curtains slightly ajar. Through the window you can see the lights of the factory. There are ethnic patterned carpets on the floor, and bundles of red peppers are hung everywhere. Incense is burning on a nearby table, making the air thick as jelly. After rubbing his eyes, the physicist tried to stand up, but his strength still hadn't fully returned. "Sit down. Sit down." A plump black woman in a red headscarf, tied in the manner of a bandana, entered the room. "I had to swaddle you in Kona mixture." "What kind of mixture? And you? Who are you anyway?" She took an old Viennese chair from the corner and sat down across from Valentine. Massive gold earrings sparkled in her ears, and various colorful rings adorned her charcoal fingers. "My name is Mama Bolad. I speak good Russian. This is a hostel for expats. Here we have our own rules." The woman smiled softly, her velvety voice soothing, dripping with sticky honey. "Konga mixture is a special composition to hide a person from Lib, the evil spirit." Maslov nervously rubbed his hands together and fidgeted in his chair. "I saw it myself. Lebe was right behind you, Summer King. You were chosen for the ritual. Do you know about the sect? And not only that, the circle is headed by a dangerous man. Only recently it became clear who he really is and what he wants. So I invaded and changed the ceremony. That's why you're here." "Did you put a shell in Vereshchagen's mouth?" Maslov barely understood what was happening. His brain refused to believe in all this paranormal stuff. "Yes, the evil man opened the ritual by choosing the King of Autumn. The wizard owns the book of the 7 Corners of Hnogf, and he knew that you would take up the baton, become the King of Spring. How do I explain?" She paused, then went on. "A lot of European magic relies on the seasons. Along with the seasons, the flow of energies changes. Spring stands against autumn. I changed the time. You found something that shouldn't be there. Cowrie. But why would this lunatic want me? Complete the rite. Valentin, you gathered negative energy while you were searching for answers. He wanted this result. Subjugate a legion of demons using the accumulated darkness. And how many innocent victims? It's time to stop the violence." Maslov tried to wrap his head around what he'd heard. A certain person, probably M.A.G., himself, with the help of the satanic Grimoire, 7 Corners of Hnogf, decided to decide the fate of the world. My skull was ringing. "All right, let it be. I believed it. In your occult symbols, energies, demons, but..." Putting his fingers in a lock, Valentine looked intently into the eyes of Mama Bolade. "How to stop this evil? A person doesn't know what went wrong. Eat this." She pressed dried roots into Maslov's hand. "And go to the old grain elevator. Everyone's already gathered. Will the action be disrupted?" "Yes. And the man? He'll go to hell, to his Lebe spirits. No longer have the strength to resist events. Since he had been a pawn in someone else's game all this time, let the final be played according to his rules." The roots quickly disintegrated in his mouth, leaving an unpleasant, bitter, grassy taste. My mind became muddled, and my brain seemed to slow down. Then my mind went blank. Maslov got out of a dorm full of blacks, slipping and stumbling on the rain-washed ground until he came to the bulk of an abandoned grain elevator. The building watched Maslov's appearance through the broken windows, where the gusty wind howled. The interior of the building smelled rotten, mixed with the salty and iotic aroma of the sea. The path is lit by flaming torches, revealing peeling walls, cobwebs, and debris scattered everywhere. The light led through huge rooms to a small cubbyhole with a concrete staircase leading down. Valentine was a little unsteady, but he quickly climbed flight after flight, hardly remembering himself in the constant, blurry traffic. The smell of rotten meat was getting stronger, and the distinct smell of raw meat was added to it. The road led to a huge hall. Wax candles smelled everywhere. The faint light gave rise to shadows crawling along the walls, dancing exactly to the music. At the other end was an iron hangar gate, closed with a massive lock. Looking down at his feet, Maslov noticed bloody streaks. Following the trail with his eyes, he saw various body fragments piled up against the wall. Especially prominent was the small child's hand protruding from the top. He threw up. My eyes were watering again, blurring the images around me. Someone was approaching slowly, his heels clicking on the concrete floor. Good night, Valentine. That voice. Impossible. Maslov immediately understood who the words belonged to. It can't be Professor Korolev, of course. The maniac clapped his hands and sighed, standing 2 meters away from the former student. I'll have to explain myself. The Grimoire describes the method of obtaining the Stone of Fools. Have you ever heard of the Philosopher's Stone? So it's the exact opposite. It does not give life, but takes it away. Valentine, it's unfortunate, but you're just an ingredient. Maslov found the strength to look into the cold gray eyes that he had carefully avoided over the years. Yes, you see, alchemy happens in the soul, so many of the ingredients are hard to come by. Prepare the mercury properly, kill a bunch of tramps and street kids. Quicksilver? This is an alchemical substance. Korolev spread his hands and pursed his lips. I keep forgetting. You are not familiar with the occult. It is also required for the stone, just like the shadowy tumor that grows inside you. Yes, diseases and substances can combine to enhance the properties of the final substance. The physicist's hands were shaking with fear and anger, and a tear ran down his cheek. Not at all. I only led you to the path of destiny by opening the ritual. The craving for criminology, the absorption of tragic stories. It is your mind that works as a filter. It passes through the darkness and concentrates the resulting substance separately from the soul. Only now did Valentine notice that there were people standing on steel platforms above. Familiar faces were also there. An archive worker in an old-fashioned sweater, Arseny Pavlovich, a school biologist, 2 policemen, I think even the girl from the park who found Vereshchagin's body. Excellent performance, you freak. I wouldn't be surprised if half the city's tied up in a cult, the physicist said through gritted teeth and spat on the floor. Well, no, definitely not. Val, understand. You need to do as I say. Necessary. Otherwise, the situation cannot be corrected. And only then will the sacrifices not be in vain. There were exclamations of surprise from upstairs. Captain Morozov stepped out onto the upper platform. Everyone's here. You can start now, Professor. He didn't look his best. He was all twitchy, rumpled, and nervous. My friend was a traitor. Although Valentin sensed something wrong coming from his friend, he didn't fully believe in the captain's connection to the cultists. Yes. Korolev reached into his jacket pocket, then abruptly pulled out a pistol from somewhere in his belt and fired several times. The captain fell down, and the policemen flowed to the floor of the platform, painting the wall behind them with the contents of the skull box. The remaining cultists huddled together and watched in fear. The captain tried to stand up with a gun in his hand, but the professor kicked the weapon out. Morozov slowly rolled over, screaming loudly in pain and clutching the bleeding wound in his stomach. Bitch, don't piss on me. Don't touch Boris. Did you expect otherwise? To win, right? You naive fool. I know the secrets of the wasteland. Korolev burst into a wild laugh. You wanted Valentin out of here, cleaning up his tracks. Trying to create a weapon against me with the help of that poor school chemist is the height of idiocy. Boris, the flawed freak of your false deity. The professor kicked the man on the ground in the side with all his might. The wounded man screamed in pain, sending an echo through the area. He's going to die, just like all your nigger bastards. On the other side of the iron gate, something hit the metal hard. It smelled like rotten seaweed. What's going on? Valentin backed away from the door, feeling his stomach turn cold with each slam against the metal. It's simple, Valya. Korolev smiled predatingly and pointed a finger at the sprawled captain. With my help, this fool wanted to release the monster into the world. A monster who has been mistaking her for his wife for 20 years. The thing that gave birth to two bastards. M.A.G. In my notes, this is Alexei Morozov. Valentin's world turned upside down. Fear wrapped sticky arms around my neck. Dust fell from the ceiling. You? Heinrich Jensen himself. The professor bowed dramatically. You were killed 20 years ago. That was the first time Morozov came to me. Jensen's hand pointed again at the captain, who was still moaning in a pool of blood. The young man found a known standard doctor who was ready for an examination. A miracle. Straight. This monster, very small, was brought by the young man's father. Yes, I took a look and said I could help this way and that. Make sure that the offspring of the reptile is born not dead or damaged, but normal. I lied. And then they decided to secretly perform a ritual and destroy. Valentin couldn't believe his ears. According to Jensen, the surgeon had been trying to stop the madness all along. Exactly. In the end, the brave guardian got his sight and then decided to kill me. But I'm a good alchemist. He survived using the knowledge from the Grimoire, changed my face. I've infiltrated a cult of worshippers of the thing that's coming here right now, and decided to pulverize the bastards from the inside out. And Morozov? Without a good occultist, Alexei would never have been able to complete his plan. I was the perfect candidate. Naturally, with the new face, no one recognized me. When Morozov doubted that the result would improve the monster's offspring, he began to act secretly. I worked with a chemist, wanting to create the necessary components for the alchemical transformation myself. The professor took a deep breath and closed his eyes, clearly enjoying the agony of an old enemy. And when the poor guy saw firsthand what he was working for, his nerves ran out and drugs were used. In other words, you were collecting the Stone of Fools and using it to kill the monster, the captain's mistress. Yes, damn it. I had to kill homeless people. Now body parts soaked in a special solution serve as bait. Thanks to the twilight tumor inside you, Valentine, we will stop evil once and for all. If you weren't going to let the demons out into the world, then why did Mama Bolide say that? Valentine moved closer to the false queen, watching the other's face turn pale. I thought you were dragged in by a spirit I sent to protect you, and you came here from Bolad? Jensen's lips trembled. Yes. The professor screamed and punched himself in the forehead, and then again, and more. The gate at the other end of the room buckled under the pressure of something gigantic, with a tearing screech. A heart-rending roar rang out. Morozov, who was lying on the ground, broke into a bloody smile. His wife is an idiot. This monster is their deity. A deafening bang hit my ears. One of the metal doors flew out and crashed to the floor. Something resembling a hybrid of a girl and a bobcat crawled into the room. The black, chitinous body wriggled on many legs, the human part covered with a carpet of small tentacles. The giant creature's paws thumped on the concrete as it made its way to the piled-up fragments of bodies. With a crack, the mouth opened unnaturally wide, allowing a huge purple tongue to fall out, which immediately began to throw meat into the mouth. Boris, the captain's retarded son, rode out on something ugly that looked vaguely like a trilobite. From somewhere inside the monster, a boy's head popped out and joined the meal next to his mother. Boris got off his brother and began to play with someone's leg. The last thing the physicist heard were Jensen's words. End. Ritual ends. A white haze filled the space, and Valentine could no longer see or feel anything. In the depths of an abandoned grain elevator, people were singing and dancing, their pitch-black skin glistening in the dim candlelight. They were celebrating the transformation of their goddess, who had finally taken on a new form and was able to bear many resilient offspring. In the place of honor, in his own throne, sat a paralyzed, balding man. The head was decorated with a wreath of exotic flowers and oak leaves. His ridiculously thick glasses were askew, but he could see and be aware. Ahead, on a rope, swung the corpse of a famous Soviet surgeon, stuffed with coconut fiber. The drums beat merrily. Salty tears ran down the new king's cheeks